night game. The motion of the world slows in a veil of weather. The vast-scale elevations of the city disappear. Along Roosevelt Island waterway, an unseen riverboat pushes wakewater against slanted wooden pilings. The slute bellow of a distant foghorn gutters in darkness. It is late February, New York, 7 p.m. The night has drawn in. Drifted river fog has eased up through the wharf sidings and low-rise streets on the margins of the Lower East Side. Crashes have been reported on the city's exit roads and highways. A soft cloud of car beams moves inexorably along Pelham Parkway. Light refracts off particles of fog. A crosstown bus mooches along 14th Street. Mary drags the outline of a face through misted glass. She can smell the stale hair of the brunette in front and the urine high stink of the old guy in the crumpled flat cap across the passageway. Inside the doorway of a vintage clothes shop, a young woman flips a cardboard closed sign and locks up. A bus passes by opposite, a child's ghost face pressed up against the glass. As she nears her stop, the blue and pink neon lights on the corner of 10th flash on and off. She pulls on a pair of kid gloves before pressing the bell on the glossy yellow bar. Stepping off the bus, she immediately feels the freedom in occlusion, the draped secrecy of befogged streets, the cling and obfuscation of the particle world. In that barren, beautiful moment of discrepancy between the seen and the unseen, footsteps sound and fade. Behind her rises the long echo and astringent beat of steel heels and soles. Mary walks through a covered arcade of grossly bright shop fronts. The arcade is empty. The individual shop units closed for business. She stops and stands before a sex shop window. There's a smell of citrus and something fetid. A sudden night alarm shreds what would otherwise be the routine hum of urban noise. She looks around, then returns her gaze to the mannequin in the window and to the sex paraphernalia surrounding it. The female mannequin is on her knees, hands behind her back and yellow corded rope behind her neck. Mary imitates some binding gestures, crossing her wrists in front and behind. She imagines the mannequin's pain in the abstract. Footsteps scuff the pearl-white tiles a short distance away. Mary looks to the side, her eyes wide, instantaneously watchful, anticipating danger. She imagines she sees a host of others watching her, oddities, freaks, derelicts, perverts, lurkers, reprobates. She knows these streets, its railings and crumbled curb margins, its basement grills and stained stoops, its hoardings and rusted fire escapes. She moves away quickly, alert to the controlled pace of following footsteps. She hears them gather and close. She walks steadily at first, the figure behind her. She doesn't turn, but her flight hairs attest to a tangible presence threatening. She doesn't attempt to rationalize the nature of the threat posed. She accepts the reality of something malevolent about to possess her. She runs through fog-bound streets and alleyways. There is a terrible coarseness to her breathing, a kind of climactic rise and fall. As she runs, her mind conjures a scarifying sequence of images, the disheveled dresses of women, men sluicing slick tongues, a figure exhaling fire. Mary runs up the steps of an old brownstone. She fumbles for her keys and stops. The road is empty of cars, with only the vague bloom of white street lamps alleviating the opaque dark. The footsteps behind her have stopped. Has she evaded danger or imagined it? It is no longer clear that she is or ever was being followed. There is only the fog. Her eyes are drawn across the road to a brightly lit, uncurtained window. She sees the blur of her Germanic housefrau neighbor Hilda. Mary raises what she imagines might be a vaguely perceived hand in a kind of wave. and smiles warmly, before plunging her key into the inverted slit and double turning until the lock tumblers and bolt release. The front door is heaved open and banged shut. Silence. Mary moves some strands of matted hair off her forehead, leans back against the door and exhales loudly while flicking the hall switch on with her outstretched hand. She calls out, almost shouts, "Darling, I'm home." There is no reply. The hallway has a decorative old-fashioned flavour, as though no substantial redecoration has occurred in a generation. The burgundy and gold-striped wallpaper with intermixed florets and urns capsizes what would otherwise be an elegant and welcoming entrance. She sets her keys down on the mirrored hall table and her mini backpack on one of the coiled antlers of the old wooden hall stand. She catches sight of herself, angular, cheek-boned, flushed. No distortion, just brutal, eviscerating age. She can feel herself becoming disconsolate. She hangs up her coat, loosens her hair, and turns on the first floor landing light. Smith, a small white cat with a gimpy, aberrant black tail, appears at her feet and brushes against her calf. She picks the cat up and holds him close. Walking towards the back room on the ground floor, she replays in her mind her lunchtime therapy session from earlier that day.